Hello, everybody, and welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions, we've got guesses. I'm Nash. I've been doing Radio Dead Air for ages and ages, but in addition to that, I'm also an IT professional. With me is my producer, Mike Gearman. Dang gum, why can't this thing stay in my ear? What is wrong with you?
Your ear is defective, obviously.
Obviously my ear just doesn't work.
And the question in the channel, yes, I had a stylist appointment today. I periodically update the coloring.
Yeah, cool. I'm Nash. I've been doing Radio Dead Air for ages and ages. In addition to that, I'm also an IT professional. With me as always, my producer, Mike Gearman, who works in IT. We're going to be helping you out with your tech questions. If you have them, you can send those to requests@radiodeadair.com. We do have a goodly number of them tonight. A couple came in after I emailed you, so
okay,
we got a bunches tonight. And we have some news stories. Before we get there, though, little talk about electrical safety in the home. We'll add this little information to you. So over the past month, we've been having electrical issues here in our house, which culminated last Thursday
in the creation of a monster. Lightning struck.
No, that would actually be cool. There's, of all the things that we relate, all the ways we relate to electricity, the thing we do not want to do is hear electricity. Because when you can hear electricity, that's the sign that there may be a problem.
Or you're at a museum and they're doing a show about electricity. But that wasn't happening at your place.
Technically, Tuesday evening, we had you could hear throughout our entire house, and then it abruptly stopped. And we lost 6 surge protectors. Very similar to this. I got bored and took this one apart just to show y'all. But yeah, this why it's blackened inside is because the way a surge protector works, there is a component inside it called a metal oxide varistor. It's a variable voltage resistor, and
it's what holds the magic smoke in.
Yeah, over time, it should be able to take several different surges from normal sources, and eventually it just wears itself out, and the light.
Although I say the several does depend on the size of the surge.
Yeah, well, there's usually a light on your surge protector. If there isn't, it's not a very good one. That will say protected, and eventually that light slowly goes out, and that's how you know you need to replace your surge protector, because the varistor is no longer working. And what you have now is just a power strip, essentially. It's not protecting anything. But if a big enough surge comes through, the varistor doesn't just calmly fade away. It quite literally explodes. It shatters. And this happened not just one surge protector, 6 different models, different makes, different ages of surge protector. All of them got the living daylights knocked out of them by that surge. What happened was, after we had an certified electrician in who checked our house and it was not here, so we called our local power company. They came out and checked, and we had a loose.
Look at this.
We had a loose connection on the transformer, which meant it was connected, but it was intermittent. And sometimes it would lose that connection. And when it came back, well, you get a little bit of a power surge, which kept happening until finally it just got too bad. But they came out, they repaired the connections, replaced the stuff that needed. We haven't had a single problem since. My point here is surge protectors are not eternal. There's not a lot of good instruction to people about surge protectors. These are temporary mitigation. Your number one misconception about surge protectors: why do I need surge protectors? We have circuit breakers. Those devices serve 2 completely different protections. Circuit breakers are ideally designed with the wires in your walls in mind. That's what they're there to protect more than anything else, is the wiring. That's why a circuit breaker has a slower trip before it gives out. It's a slow rise in current, and then it goes, okay, shutting you down. Surge protectors, on the other hand, they don't give a crap about the wires. They're all concerned about the devices plugged into them. And they clamp down fast on any sort of electrical surge that goes through your system. But the simple fact is, this is the second misconception, they're not eternal. You need to regularly check them, unless you're fortunate enough to get a whole home surge protector, which we got priced for that. That's $500 professionally installed. Those are neat because they just put a device on your cable box, your breaker box, and suddenly your entire house, every outlet is as if it's on its own surge protector, which is nice, but it's a little pricey. A clue that your surge protector isn't working anymore, like I said, the LED will be out. If your surge protector doesn't have an LED,
it's a cheap surge protector. Now, I'll also say a sign that it's going out is if the LEDs are flickering.
Yep, that's on its way out. That's saying
I've run into those at some work surge protectors, and it's like, that surge protector needs to be replaced. Why? See that LED? It's flickering. Also, the rust.
So that's something to keep in mind if you put your computers on that sort of device, any of your devices on it. They're not eternal. If it takes a big enough of a hit or slowly grinds down over time, eventually it's not protecting anything and your devices are vulnerable. So fortunately, the only thing we lost to the surge was one LED bulb, because it was the only thing that wasn't on the surge protector. Everything else in the house is on surge protectors. I feel vindicated. Feel very justified in doing it.
Even your fridge is on a surge protector?
No, actually, no, it's not. I need to put one on there. Thanks for letting me know. Even I have little. They're cheap, but they do work temporarily. One socket surge protectors. You just plug over the outlet for one device. I think it's like 500 joule protection, which won't last long, but it will last. It will take a hit or two. Anyway, I've got one on my,
and that's way cheaper to replace than a major appliance or a computer.
Yeah, I put our microwave on one. I forgot the fridge, but I did put our microwave on one. So anyway, that's about that. Let's talk about some news before we get to your tech questions. And well, somebody has decided to take on a windmill or two, from the sound of it. So the Department of Justice this week, not the FTC, not the FCC, the Department of Justice has filed a massive antitrust suit against Apple. And everybody's making fun of the green bubble. It's like, oh, they're suing them over the green bubbles. That's just
they're suing them over way more than that.
The green bubbles are just got the people's attentions for some stupid reason.
Yes. So a thing with iPhones, if you don't have one, is that if someone is using an iPhone and they're messaging you and you're messaging them back, they can tell, because of the color of the bubble, that you're not using an iPhone.
Yeah.
Now, some people try to spin this as, they'll try to guilt you into getting an iPhone so that you don't have these green bubbles. I don't know that people are that subject to peer pressure.
Another thing about those green bubbles thing is, if you see that, it means whoever's talking to you does not have an encrypted connection.
Right. And that's what I was about to get to. The more important thing is the encrypted connection, which, if you're doing something that you do not care other people to be able to intercept, that's useful. Now, there are perfectly legitimate and legal reasons why you might want end-to-end encryption on your text messaging with someone. And of course, there are plenty of other reasons, which is why other federal agencies keep trying to badger Apple and other companies into putting back doors into their encryption so they can get in there easily.
But in this instance, it's the fact that
It's
Apple,
that Apple is not playing well with others.
yeah, a lot.
If I have an Android phone and Nash has an Android phone, which I think is the case,
Yes.
and I send him a video somehow, it comes through in whatever resolution I send it, subject maybe to his data limits.
Mm-hmm.
If I send it to an Apple user, it comes through in a very low, grainy resolution.
Yeah. And there's no
They
reason
deliberately downsample it because they're, oh, you're not on an iPhone. We're just going to degrade the incoming service someone is receiving.
Yeah, there is no technical reason for it. There's also no technical reason for not allowing the encryption, which is they're deliberately hobbling it. And it's like this for dozens of applications. Most notably were super apps that can be built within browsers. That would allow people to, say, watch Netflix through a browser instead of having to go through an app, or stream games from Microsoft service without having to go through an app. And by not having to go through an app, they don't have to go through the App Store. So Apple
and the Apple payment plan of 30% off the top, which, by the way, Apple has made a vast amount of money. And if you look at how much money they make from their App Store, that's a huge chunk of it. So they are, I disagree with how much they take, but I understand why they're trying to defend it. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, we're kind of coming up to a reckoning on Apple's entire business model. They keep saying it's for the good of the consumer, but there's really no good evidence for that, and that's part of what this suit is about. Apple is degrading service interoperability, locking people into the other thing was about the Apple Watch not being functioning well with anything but an iPhone, locking people into an ecosystem. And this is a monopolistic practice, according to the Department of Justice. And this is not going to be sorted soon or quickly or easily. There are going to be appeals upon appeals. This is going to probably go to the Supreme Court because it is the Department of Justice. This is the federal government itself. This is the highest level of law enforcement. So this is going to go on for a while before we have anything definitive. My gut says that in maybe 3 years, we're going to have a settlement of some kind. But whether that actually solves anything going forward, it all depends on how tough the Department of Justice wants to be about that. And considering it's Merrick Garland's Department of Justice, we're going to get a settlement in about 3 years. So anyway, moving on along. Terrible news if you actually give a crap about reporting on games. I don't mean about ethics in game journalism. No, fuck that shit. I talk about actual reporting. People who've done long time, interesting, just digging into investigative journalism. The story about the Fallout 76 development debacle. The story about what happened to Mass Effect Andromeda. Tons of other.
I would say tons of other stories. Kotaku has decided they don't want to do that kind of thing anymore.
Yep. Kotaku
more or less
is now, and I know some of you are like, ew, Kotaku. You cannot deny that in its heyday, Kotaku actually did do some really good investigative journalism, and we learned stuff about the gaming industry. The background, what was the Anthem? Yeah, the entire debacle behind the scenes about Anthem. We wouldn't have known what was going on without their reporting on it. Well, it looks like what's happening over at Gawker Media or Geo Media, what's left of Gawker, Jim Spanfeller, who is an herb, has decided that they want to focus Kotaku on game guides, away from news reporting and more toward game guides. And they are wanting 50 guides a week for the staff, which is ridiculous.
Yes. Okay, it's ridiculous. I mean, is that, okay, I do have to back up as I was a little unclear on that point. Is that 50 guides a week per staffer?
I don't
50
know.
guides a week for the 10 people they've left employed there?
I'm not sure. Let's see, guides a week.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's a little unclear.
At the 50 guides a week at the site. So it's 50 for everybody, but still 50 game guides. How many game guides can you write for Helldivers 2? How many game guides can you write for Baldur's Gate 3?
I feel you're going to run out of games people actually play relatively quickly because the game development cycle can be quite long.
And
they're just gonna be like, okay, I just turned in my Tetris game guide because that's all I had left.
And more than that, there's a lot of people there whose skill set is not in writing game guides. Their skill set is in actually journalism. So what they're trying, it's very clear they're trying to steer this into becoming an AI thing. They want generative AI. They want gibberish generators. They're literally, it has been incredible how they do not know how to run media outlets. Jim Spanfeller has been.
It was a herb.
An herb. Yes, he is a herb. The depth of his incompetence has been shocking to the point that he created Defector Media on accident, which is becoming one of the most premier sports writing and also some political work there. That's as an outlet and is completely independent. It's run by people, a lot of ex-staffers from Deadspin. And speaking of, he's also created Aftermath accidentally, aftermath.site. It's a lot of people from Kotaku who were doing that investigative journalism, like Gita Jackson, Riley McLeod, Nathan Grayson. A lot of names you may be familiar with are there still doing the work. They're just, they're independent now. Now that's good, but it also means they are working with a lot less and they are dependent entirely upon the goodwill of their audience, which, as I can explain to you, a lot of you would love to give me as much as you possibly could, but you have like rent and food and stuff. So you chip in what you can when you can. And I know that and I appreciate it. But there's only so much y'all can chip in. So this is part of a larger overall media being hollowed out online. These idiots who believe generative AI is going to take its place and the reckoning is going to be so stupid. And
yeah. I mean, with generative, we're already seeing the lawsuits from people who say, hey, you lifted your content from us without paying us. You're violating our copyright. Next, we're going to be seeing the people who are filing the lawsuits because generative AI said, this is how you make an apple pie, and they've poisoned their family.
Yeah, stuff like that. Regardless, it's I recommend going and checking out aftermath.site, even if you can't afford to contribute. I recommend maybe trying to. That's where I've migrated to for my games journalism. There's not a lot of them. They're doing what they can because there's only a handful of people there right now. But what they do put out is interesting, and I need games reporting. I need to know just consumer focused stuff, like the nightmare behind some of the crunch that was involved behind Cyberpunk, Fallout 76, all these things that would not get public, like the whole not retrospective, but the whatever word gone, whatever. The reporting that was done on Activision Blizzard that broke that story wide the hell open, the Cosby Suite and all that. Yeah. So, finally, Microsoft has announced there is going to be, shockingly enough, a standalone version of Microsoft Office again. But it might be the last one.
And I think it's because so few people signed up for the pay us monthly version of Microsoft Office, just continuing to hold on to their old version that they paid for once and were done with.
Microsoft 365 is what they call it, which is not, well,
It's pay us 365 days of the year.
One of the things, I don't understand how the subscription stuff was supposed to work, because they mainly tried to lean on the fact that it would have cloud options and share
cloud integration,
file integrations and all that. But there are people right now who are happy to be running Office 2007. Do you know why 2007?
Because it doesn't go online?
Well, no, but because that's when DocX was introduced. Everything since then, they haven't needed to. They are missing some features.
There's been no need to upgrade.
But there's been no need to upgrade. All the functionality they need is still available in 2007. People are also using LibreOffice or FreeOffice or OpenOffice. There are alternatives that don't require paying a dime, that have most of the compatibility with Office. I don't see how Microsoft thought they could get a subscription out of this. Because even if people don't even want to do LibreOffice, Google Apps for 90% of the world, Google Online, their documents and all that stuff is good enough. And good enough is what most people need. So I don't know if we're going to see Microsoft rethink this strat as time goes on. I don't know what they could. They're trying to add Copilot to everything to be like, it's the new Clippy. It really is the new Clippy. It's so sad. It's the new freaking Clippy. They're trying to add Copilot everything as sort of a value attraction.
I don't see the value in Clippy.
Really? You can still iterate on Windows. You can still improve speed, stability, compatibility.
You could start trying to work towards, you can patch Windows without having to reboot.
God, wouldn't system administrators everywhere adore that?
And yes, I'm aware that they are sort of working on that, and they're not as close to it as they need to be. And there will always be some things that you need to reboot for. That's fine. But they need to have a lot more work done on that, because that is the number one cause of aggravation in any Office setting of, everyone's rebooting.
But there really isn't anything left to do with Office. The cloud has happened. We're all it's there. We can use it or not. I don't know. We'll have to see what Microsoft does with this, but maybe the only thing I could think of would just be to say, fuck it, throw up their hands and finally integrate Office into Windows.
I see them getting hit with antitrust if they did that.
Maybe. Or at least making it an option that people can just download if they want. But anyway. All right, that's the news for this week. Now it's time to look into your questions, and we got quite a few this week, which is nice. Better to have too few than too little. And I always say.
You mean too many than too little.
Yeah, too many, too little. I word bad, good high. I smart. I man think smart.
Nash, have you ever heard of this thing called pregnancy brain?
No.
Have you been tested?
No. I think I'm good. Thanks. All right, our first one this week. This is from Vincent. He says, "Hey, Nash and Mike, I'm close to starting my own podcast. Good on you. Initially audio only, but also with video. I was wondering if I could get some recommendations on what laptop I should purchase. Ideally, one that can handle programs needed to record audio, screen cap, and do video calls all at once. My preference would be a Windows-based OS, but open suggestions. Non-touch screen around 15 inches or less for portability. My budget's around 500 or less. Considering Nash turned me on Frank Turner. It's been my reliable source for news for many years. I trust whatever suggested." Okay. Well, first let's do brands to avoid.
Lenovo.
We still do not trust Lenovo. They pulled some shenanigans, and we don't trust Lenovo as far as we can throw them. So don't buy Lenovo, whatever. And we know they make their stuff cheaper than everybody else. Question yourself why.
Yeah.
That's all we can say. What were we going to add?
I was going to say, this might be the place where a refurbished laptop is your friend, because you can get a better amount of laptop for the fact that it's been pre-owned.
Well, a good thing about audio is that these days audio is trivial for a computer to edit, work on. You use, even if you're not even using Audition. What was the other one, the open one? I forgot. I forget.
Audigy?
Audigy, something like that. I don't know if they forked that or what, but the hardware requirements, Audacity, that is,
Audacity.
The hardware requirements for that are very low. We have perfected doing audio on computer. Video has gotten a lot better too.
Yeah. To the point where if you're willing to let it take a bit more time, you could probably do video with an i3, though you wouldn't be happy.
At the $500 budget level, there are two recommendations I can make. One is you definitely want to give AMD a chance here, because what they can offer you for less money than Intel is pretty good. A Ryzen 5 7000 series would fall into the $500 budget, something like that. And not only do you get that 6-core 12 threads, pretty decent, but you also get Radeon graphics, which to date, Intel is going to be making a big leap with those supposedly this year with I think it's either Arrow Lake or Meteor Lake. They're going to be improving the graphics. They're going to be adding some of the stuff they've learned from their new graphics card line with not Battlemage. What was it called?
Alchemist.
Alchemist, that was it. They're going to be putting some of that into going forward, but for right now, AMD has better. If it has Radeon, it has better integrated graphics than Intel does. They tend to sell cheaper. Another suggestion I can make is if you're looking for a deal, try to look a generation back. So for AMD, that would be the 5000 series or 6000. Yeah, laptop. They do the laptop numbers weird.
No, it's 5000.
It's 5000. So looking back a single generation, you can find some refurbished, you can find some clearance, you can find some deals there. And those laptops have both 5000 and 6000. Yeah. Those systems will be good for a long while. Anything Ryzen 5 and up, if you could find a Ryzen 7, that's the thing. If you find a Ryzen 7, which is 8-core, 16 threads, a generation back, that's the same price as a modern Ryzen 5. It's a toss-up whether the extra clock speed of a more modern Ryzen or the larger core count of a Ryzen 7 will benefit you. I think if you're doing video, you're going to want to have a few more cores. But it's the video calls, screen cap, video calls, recording audio, that's not hard to do. That really isn't hard to do.
Yeah.
So that, and open box refurbished from trustworthy sites. Newegg tends to be okay. They got in trouble for it not long ago, but Best Buy, while I wouldn't deal with Geek Squad unless I was not even kicking and screaming, they do sell the hardware. They sell is fairly straightforward. The only thing, like Chromecast would not serve you well for this sort of stuff. Maybe for the audio recording, but video would be a little trickier. I don't know if there's DaVinci for Chromecast. It sounds like probably not. So you definitely want to stick with Windows. I know Mac OS is going to be, any Mac is going to be out of your budget range because they all are. It's stupid.
Yes, you pay a significant premium for Macs, but fortunately, you're saying you prefer Windows. So
yeah, so AMD.
I would check out Newegg to see what you can put in your upper price limit, and their search functionality unlike so many sites, is actually good.
Yeah, just bare basic, you want at least a Ryzen 5 processor, and you want at least a Ryzen 5000 series. And somewhere you should be okay going forward. You find something there. Okay, next up, this is from Jerome Washington. I think that's the name because it's Jerome, Washington. Pulling a strong bat here. Leave me alone. Hi, Nash and Mike and Floofs. Short version. When in a release cycle is the best time to buy new hardware. Longer version. Graphic cards and CPU and stuff always debut with, I think I'm supposed to say big prices there, that slowly drop over time, or with AMD drop real fast. So my question is it worth waiting for discounts, or is it a better idea to get new hardware as soon as you can? I know this stuff has a lifespan. I want to get the most out of what I pay for as long as I can.
Well, okay, so realistically, I would say unless you have an urgent need for it, like your computer caught on fire and you need to replace it, I wouldn't go with the day the stuff releases for a handful of reasons. It could be that you go, oh, I have to get this at, it's the newest and the greatest, and then a story comes out on Tech Dirt or whatever, 19 flaws found in this processor, and you're going, So you always want to, in my mind, you always want to wait at least a little bit so people can uncover the bugs or the feature deficiencies of the new hardware, so that you're not paying for that.
There is also the fact that we're keeping hardware in service much longer. Look at AMD right now. They're still making brand new AM4 processors.
Yep.
That means their 5000 series stuff, which is from, 2020, I want to say, which that's 4 years back. Yeah, I think the 5900, what was the 5900X? Let me look that up.
So the short version is I would certainly wait at least a month, maybe more, depending. Part of it depends on when the release date is compared to Christmas. So if they're releasing stuff in February, maybe only wait a month or two. If they're releasing stuff in July, maybe you wait closer to Christmas because they'll start being a lot of great deals.
Like we used to say that the operational life, at least till obsolescence for hardware, used to be between 3 and 5 years. That's stretched out now.
Well, I'd say it's probably between 4 and 6 or 5 and 7 now.
Between 5 and 7. 5 for gaming, 7 for general applications.
And given that people still using the version of Office you mentioned, sometimes more than 7.
Waiting, you can get some pretty decent deals if you wait about a year, which is a weird thing to say. I personally just did this myself. I got I would say a pretty good deal on a used RTX 4080 for $860 used, as opposed to the new price of $1,200. And even the price of the RTX Super, or the 4080 Super, which is 1,000. If you can wait a year, you're going to find some deals. And if you can resist having the newest, shiniest things, you're going to find some deals. And you're going to get, it's a year you don't have the thing. Sure. But
it's a year you're using your previous thing, like I say, unless your computer caught on fire, otherwise died. And so maybe it's a case of don't look at the newest thing, look at the thing that came out a year ago. Hey, there you go.
And I always do recommend used. This stuff is fairly sturdy if you get from a reputable seller with buyer protection. But if you have to have it sooner than a year, I'd say wait at least a few months. Because like you've been saying, AMD their pricing has been all over the place. They come out with these insanely high prices, and then they say, like a few months later, they say, oh, you can have this card for like $5 now or something. It's not $5, but you know what I mean? They've been dropping prices like crazy, even within a month of release.
Yeah.
So
I certainly wouldn't buy anything, like I said, release week, unless I absolutely needed it for some other purpose. If I was buying it because I needed it for a money-making purpose, that was not crypto or some other nonsense.
Mm-hmm. And Another good thing about this is, well, I say a good thing. The prices have been so crazy. No, it's been the only thing that's been hard to get a hold of. Was the 4090 because they didn't make enough of them deliberately, more or less. But yeah, the 4090 was in low stock, and now it's like $1,800, which is $200 above MSRP. Everything else sat on shelves. There was plenty of stock for it. There are plenty of 4080 Supers. The only reason the 4080 started going out of stock is because they stopped making them. Everything else is well in stock. People are not buying them in. It's not like when the GTX the GTX 10 series came out, the 1080 and all that. Those got snapped up. There were months went by before people could get those again. Those were super popular. They just flew off shelves. The prices are keeping people from doing that now. So, and people are finding some of their older hardware still in perfectly good shape. Okay, this is from Slayer Mamba. Is there a good, easy way to size up my computer for a UPS, uninterruptible power supply? I was thinking of getting one, but I don't know what wattage, battery, whatever I need. Is there a calculator somewhere? Well, okay.
Yes and no. So there are several online calculators. Many of them are kind of garbage because
and a lot of them
they don't keep up with what is current on computers. They just say, "Oh, you have a desktop computer. You need this UPS."
My best way of figuring what you'll need for a UPS is good resources for this are AMD's website, Intel's website, and NVIDIA's website. What you need to do is you need to find out what CPU you have and look that up, either AMD or Intel, and that will tell you what wattage it's rated for. Now, often those boost above that, but you'll get the general idea. Then you want to do the same thing for your graphics card. If you look it up on the website, you look under specifications, it will tell you the rated wattage. Now, again, these can boost higher than that now because they have built-in overclocking.
Yeah.
Get those two numbers first. Add them together. Add about another 100 watts.
Yeah, because that's going to be your monitor.
No, that's taking boost into account. Then another 100 watts above that. And that's going to be for your motherboard, your hard drives, everything else in your system that needs power. And as far as monitors go, yeah, whatever monitor and speakers you have plugged in, figure that in as well. And then maybe add another 50 watts if you want to have some wiggle room. And that's the kind of wattage you want. Now, understand a UPS is not going to stay on long, even if you have the wattage about right. I have a 900 watt UPS. And at full charge, if the power goes out, I have about 7 to 8 minutes before I have to shut everything down. That's the purpose of a UPS. It is to give you time to gracefully turn your electronics off without a sudden shutdown. It lets you save your shit and close it without having, everything just go on your face. So, yeah, that's what I would look for. They're worth having because I will tell you, with all the surges we had here, the battery backups. I have one for me and an older one I gave to Sarah. They're fine. They took it like champs. I mean, they kept systems running when the lights went down. They're absolutely fine. Another thing a UPS can do.
I will say the one site I know that has a decent, relatively, display of this information is Trip Lights.
Yeah, Trip Light. Yeah, they're pretty good.
Because they'll tell you, oh, you have a home office one? We've got 72 products here. Pick your input voltage, which is your wall voltage.
Yeah.
Your plug type, and how much output, once you've done other calculator. And I'll say, here's your results, and they'll give you a little display saying how long this will stay running for, when the power goes.
Yeah, the wattage only matters because if you don't have enough wattage, it won't stay on. It can't. If you're drawing too much power, then you might as well not even have the UPS at all. But if you give it a little headroom and you balance it out, you should get about a good UPS should give you at least 5 minutes to shut your stuff down, which is you think 5 minutes, oh God, that's a long time. 5 minutes is a long time to shut down a computer, to have time to shut down a computer, save your stuff. 5 minutes, that's a lot. So, all right, let's see. We had a couple others come in. Let's start with Zoe here. Yeah, we got a bunch tonight, which is good. I love it. Good evening, Nash and guests. That's Mike, but that's cool. New people, I understand. It's fine. I've been gaming on consoles for well over a decade now. Last gaming PC I owned was a Dell from 2003. My family got that included a special Dell edition of EA's Lord of the Rings Return of the King. I currently have a PS5, Nintendo Switch, and recently got a Steam Deck. Steam Deck's been pretty nice. I play more games with my Discord friends. Of course, it still has drawbacks. Not every game is deck compatible. Current home computer is an iMac I got back in 2014. My question isn't if I should stick with an Apple or PC, Apple's Mac line. My question is, should I get a gaming laptop to ease back into the PC world or dive head in with a desktop? I understand the investment is big no matter what. I know laptops don't last as long. With that said, I don't feel confident enough in my tech knowledge for a desktop. Well, Zoe, you don't have to pre-build.
Yeah, you don't have to be competent in technology because you're not necessarily going to be building the desktop.
Yeah.
You can buy one stock from a number of places.
People I recommend iBuyPower, CyberPower, a couple others like that. The reason I recommend them is they aren't necessarily the best, but they do use off-the-rack components, which means upgrading it later is going to be super easy.
Or if you're just buying I'm buying a computer, Newegg is also a possibility.
The reason, Newegg's, what's their home brand called? The Rosewill.
Rosewill.
It's not Rosewill for the desktops though, because they do. Newegg assembles desktops and they make some good ones too. So Newegg getting a desktop from them is a pretty good idea. It's like AP or something. I forget.
ABS.
That's it. That's Newegg's house brand. That's pretty good. Also, if you walk to a Micro Center, the people in the Micro Center will recommend you some good stuff too. They're straight up with you on that. I recommend getting a desktop over a laptop because, quite simply, every gaming laptop is going to be underpowered compared to the same amount of money you spend on a desktop.
Yep.
You're going to be spending, it's like if you get the same amount of money between a desktop and a laptop, that gaming laptop is going to be at least a tier below what the gaming desktop will be. The gaming desktop might be 1 or 2 tiers above the laptop. Laptops have to take into consideration lower power, battery draw, heat, a whole bunch of things that a desktop doesn't have to worry about. And because of that, they have to clock the laptop lower. The GPUs are less powerful. Everything is on the laptop compared to a desktop. The only advantage you get on the laptop is portability. If that matters to you, but you sounds like you have the Steam Deck already. And here's the nice thing about having the Steam Deck. If you get a powerful enough desktop, you can stream games from the desktop to the Steam Deck using your desktop's amount of graphics processing power, and they will play a lot better on the Steam Deck. I mean, it will look fantastic on that thing. So yeah, if I would recommend, depending on your price, Micro Center is a good place to go. Newegg is a good place to look online. ABS has had some great deals if you want to look there for money wise. So yeah, whatever your price range is, a desktop will always be more bang for the buck than a laptop. And yeah,
and if something goes wrong with it, it's a single component that is probably not soldered to the rest of the computer. It's is replaceable.
Desktops are much easier to fix overall because you could park them out very easily. While Macs, the new Apple Silicon Macs are better for gaming, they handle stuff like Baldur's Gate pretty well, Baldur's Gate 3. They're also limited in the number of titles that are made for them. And, well, they're still behind everybody else, even though they make ridiculous boasts about being ahead of everybody else, which, if they were, gaming would be the... No, sorry. Just Apple being Apple. So, yeah, that's what a pre-built desktop will... It might cost a little bit more than slapping one together yourself, but you will get warranty service, and you'll know you have someone there to work it out for you if something goes wrong. Okay. Oh boy, we have more questions. Yay! Neon Void Kitty. Okay. Greeting, Nash and Mike and Floofs. While troubleshooting frequent crashes while playing Dragon's Dogma 2, I discovered my system doesn't meet the minimum specs for VRAM. I like the idea of putting as little into my system as needed to get the game to run, but I'm worried I may wind up in the same situation later down the line and may be worth investing in a significant overhaul now. New motherboard, RAM, video card. Specifically worried that the CPU and the motherboard, Asus Strix X299E, which is their X299 is the Halo product, or at least used to be Halo product for high-end extreme Intel CPUs. They don't really have one at the moment. Not sure if the socket is supported anymore. Will be for long. It's not. It's that's already no longer supported. Budget shouldn't be an issue, but I don't need the latest or greatest. Just need something with less. All right, you're currently running. She sent images. Sorry. You're currently running an RTX 2060 for GPU, and you have 64 gigs of RAM, Windows 10, which you can run Windows 11 on. You have an i7 9800X. That's 8-core, 16-thread, goes up to 4.5 gigahertz. That thing was a little overbuilt in its day because it was the extreme Halo product for Intel at the time. For one thing, it's still supported by Windows 11, so that's okay there. I would say your motherboard and CPU can wait a bit. 8-core, 16-thread. It's not going to be pushing the super highest, fastest frames per second, but you're not going for that. You're looking... What you need right now, more than everything else, is a GPU. That CPU still got another couple of years left in it before you absolutely have to upgrade it. For the specs,
so that looks like it only has a PCIe 3 on it.
Yeah, it only has PCIe 3. Oh, yeah, that's something to consider.
I just want to say, that's what we need to look at when going with video cards. Now, a video card that is PCIe 4 capable will go back to PCIe 3. It's just, should you spend the money on that kind of thing?
I'm looking at something real fast. Shit. Well, that kind of causes issues for using AMD because they have cheaped out on their current. They expect you to have a PCIe 4.0 machine. They are using only 8 lanes of PCIe 4.0 on stuff like the 7600 XT, which...
Because the lanes are wider on PCIe 4.
But if you try to use those backwards compatible, put them in a PCIe 3.0, you're only running at 8x speed. You will have speed issues running something like the... Which sucks because the 7600 XT with 16 gigs would suit you for a while for what you want to do. That being said, should you go for... Well, you know what? The PCIe 3.0 is kind of an issue. What do you think, Mike? Should she try for an upgrade? Motherboard, CPU? Should she go the whole hog?
She said price wasn't an issue.
I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't do
it.
If
it was me with the PCIe 3 situation, I would seriously look at upgrading because you might be able to get a significant deal on an AMD motherboard, processor, and card as a bundle from some sites.
I'm sorry, Void Kitty. I'm sorry. My bad. Didn't mean to misgender you. Sorry about that. Okay.
Sorry. I know I say Newegg a lot, but they do bundles.
They do.
So,
they're good bundles too.
Yeah. So I would look there and see if it may be, well, time for an upgrade. And a bundle of motherboard processor RAM, and then a video card on top of that. If your budget allows for it, I would say go for it.
I would recommend,
it's the kind of thing, as we talked about earlier in the show, since it's a desktop, you pick the right upgrades, you're good for 3 to 5 years.
I would recommend a B650 motherboard. The system currently has 64 of RAM rare. The RAM is fine.
Yeah, but the RAM compatibility, I suspect we're going to DDR5 here. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because honestly, AM4 is kind of dead. If we're going to do AM4, there's really no difference between getting an AM4 platform or Intel platform at that point. Oh yeah, Micro Center has good deals too. Especially their prices tend to be a little lower because they don't ship online. You have to walk in to get their stuff. So yeah, Micro Center's got good stuff. B650, Ryzen 5 7600, DDR5 RAM. I honestly, 64 gigs, if you're not doing video editing, 64 gigs is a little overkill. You might be fine with 32. But if you want 64, get 64. At least with the DDR5, get at least DDR5 3000. Is it 3000 or 6000? 3000. My brain.
I haven't purchased DDR5 yet, so.
My mind. Yeah, DDR5 3000. That's the clock speed. No, wait, no, 6. Yeah, 6000. God, brain. DDR4 3000. DDR5 6000 is the minimum I'd get speed-wise for your RAM. As far as the graphics card, let's see, they recommended a 6700 if I'm seeing right. The 7700 XT would be a pretty good deal. Does that have 16? How much RAM does that have? I think that's 12 gigs of RAM, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 12 gigs of RAM.
I see some with 6. No, that must be an X. No, that's an XT with 16.
Well, that's the 7600 XT has 16 gigs of RAM, but it is a hair slower than a 6700. It has more VRAM going forward, but it is a little bit slower. So for my money, I would look at the RX 7700 XT. It has 12 gigs of RAM, which is pretty decent these days. And it's a little bit faster. The ray tracing is not as good as NVIDIA, but pure rasterization is always faster on AMD at that end of the lane right now. So, or you may want to consider, if you can afford to buy new, I would buy new if you could, but you can also look at used stuff. Used graphics cards. There are some good deals to be had. Get through eBay, and, buyer protection, all that stuff. I mean, I just did. I eBayed an RTX 4080. It's great. I just had to look at make sure the seller had good feedback and all that. So yeah. So that would be a B650 motherboard. At least a Ryzen 7600, because that's a pretty good one. That'll put you, yeah, that'll be fine there. And a 7700 XT, maybe if you really wanted to scrimp on it, a 7600 XT, but it's not quite as fast as the 6700. So if that's what the game wants you to shoot for.
And by the way, I'll say this again. I know I say Newegg a lot. They have a combo builder thing where you can say, I need these components, and they say, okay, yes, here, we'll sell them all to you, and here's $50, $60 off.
And the good news is, what you currently have, you should either, if you want to save it for an emergency to have an old system, or use prices on that, you should be able to recoup some of your costs of the upgrade by selling that motherboard, CPU, and the RAM and the GPU. You should be able to get some money back on eBay for that. Or home server. Yeah, Rarity. That would be a hellish. Good God, the home server you can make out of that. That would be incredible for something like Plex, because it's got a 2060 in there, yeah, that'd be able to, render 4K and all. Yeah. Oh my God, that'd be great. All right. So hopefully, Neon Boy Kitty, hopefully that answered it for you. If you have any more, let us know. All right, next up. Hakeem. Hello, Nash and Mike. Few questions, too straightforward, one that might not have an easy answer. Okay. Firstly, will Windows 11 ever be worth upgrading to, as it feels like Microsoft's getting more aggressive with pushing Windows 11? I don't know if I can keep using Windows 10 in the distant future. I wouldn't say Windows 11 right now is not a bad upgrade. It's been out for a few years. It is fairly stable. Games have migrated to it. There are some CPUs and things that, I mean, the whole only holdup was like the whole cut off on older CPUs, and they've quietly eased that back a little bit. It's had enough time to get some age on it, which means they fixed a lot of the problems. So I know they're aggressive about it. It is annoying, but I want to move to Windows 11 myself personally. It's just finding the time to bring my system down and then take all the information I need from all the applications I use, save files, move things here and there, wipe the drive, reinstall Windows, reinstall everything. It's going to be that's going to be a project.
That sounds like a week-long event.
Yeah, that's going to be a project. I need to do it because eventually Windows 10 is going to run out. But that's the only thing stopping me from doing Windows 11 right now is time constraints. So, secondly, remember you guys pointing out all the flaws in two-factor authentication. I was wondering, there's more precautions I could take to keep my account more secure. Right now, two-factor authentication is the best we have. And the flaws with two-factor authentication, the main ones were phone two-factor authentication.
Because it wasn't encrypted normally.
No, it wasn't encrypted, and folks could spoof the phones very easily by social engineering the people who actually worked at the cell phone companies. So they could spoof someone's phone, and then they could phone number, and then
and that was assuming that someone working at the local Verizon shop wasn't just looking stuff up and copying it.
So the two-factor authentication, you really need to use a token-based one. And even Google's authenticator on your cell phone, while it's on your cell phone, they can't access it. That's it's its own app. It's isolated to the phone. Token-based two-factor authentication is very strong. Nothing is perfect, but token-based two-factor is it's a very strong consumer level stuff we have right now. Making things more secure. I mean, you could add biometrics if you want. You could add a fingerprint.
So a lot of the biometric stuff is kind of garbage.
True, but as a matter of if you wanted to, password, two-factor, and biometric, that would that would increase the difficulty, if nothing else. But in fact, the way most things are wired is it's either biometric or two-factor. They kind of, but
yeah, it's either or, not both.
If you do want to add that is an option. You could look into maybe adding that on top of two-factor. The more layers of the more requirements to log into a thing, the more secure it is.
Yeah.
To
give an example, I've had this week 5 hits on my which isn't a lot, on my one of my accounts, and I get a message saying someone tried to log into one of your accounts. Here's the code you need to provide to log in. If this wasn't you, don't worry about it. They didn't get very far.
All right. Lastly, let's say hypothetically an anime home media company initially had digital copies of anime that came with Blu-rays that you could watch on their site, but after being merged into another streaming company, the home media site is going to close and the digital copies will be effectively gone. Hypothetically. Is there a way to back those up somehow? The digital copies are mine, and I'm doubtful I'm going to be compensated for those losses. No, sadly. If you want to get the media straight from their site, they put so many layers of DRM around it that I know there are ways. I mean, the basic ass way to get around it, okay, is screen capture it. And some sites don't allow you to do that. There's a DRM that if you try to do a screen cap of their streaming stuff, what you'll capture is just a black screen. And OBS, it will do that with OBS too. They are well aware of that. I am never going to personally recommend rip write stuff. Yeah. I am personally never going to recommend torrenting. I mean, if you feel adventurous, understand there are risks that come with trying to do torrents. Your best bet is, what you've lost is they got you. They got you. Your best bet is to try to get some actual physical media or trying to get a hold of it somehow. Or generously, you may want to invest into a DVD burner because if some of your friends, or not DVD, a Blu-ray burner.
And your third option is hope that someone affected by this starts a class action suit over this that you can join and that they might be successful on.
I mean, it might be useful to, if you know someone who has the same stuff, burning a copy. Technically, in my view, you already paid for your copy and they're taking it away from you, which is crap. So torrenting has risks. Burning a Blu-ray copy does not. But that's my personal. I am not a lawyer. Take that advice as you will. I offer no insurances on it. But yeah. All right, final one is from Charles. He says, well, I recently got an Ender 5 Pro from Facebook Marketplace just to toy around with and cosplay props as well as minis. I was wondering what newer 3D printers would you guys recommend or what ones you guys used, as well as your thoughts on 3D printing as a whole, as considering getting the Bamboo P1P. Thanks for a great content device. I appreciate that, Charles.
I have never actually used a 3D printer. I have had people who I've gotten to 3D print stuff for me, but I've never used one.
I've used one at the local makerspace that we have here. As far as advances in the newer ones, one of the ones is the multiple filament stuff they have that allows you to print in color, not just one color, but you multiple filaments that will allow you to print full color, like objects that come out of it. As far as 3D printing in a whole, what I have tended to do lately, instead of messing with actually doing it myself, I've been using Cloudcraft. I think that's what it's called. Let me look it up. Is that what it's called? What's the damn thing called? I had so many damn services. Let me look up the order I made. It was a while back. Craft Cloud. Other way around. I had it right. Craft Cloud is a site online where bunches and bunches of services that have their 3D printers will offer you bids to make your object and then ship it to you. And it's exceedingly cheap. I needed a couple things made. Like, for example, I'm redoing this button box back here. As I built it, it's really difficult to swap out the labels under the buttons. I thought it would be easier, but the design just isn't. It's a little too unwieldy. So I came up with an idea. These little magnet plates. I've mounted some magnets inside the actual controller box, and I have these with magnets on. I had them print these, and I can just print labels to relabel the buttons for whatever program I need. They did this, I think it was like about $10 with shipping for these 3. That's been my experience. Honestly, as far as the 3D printing for me has been, it's been easier to let someone else do it than to mess with it myself. Now, Lewis, if you want to follow his stuff, Linkara has been getting heavy into the 3D printing. Like he has been enthusiastic about that stuff. You can follow his social media. He will go on and on about it. As far as my thoughts, the Ender 5 Pro is pretty good. I mean, the Ender has been one of the big names in 3D printing for a while now. Unless you want to get crazy with stuff like the full color, then
there's one I just saw that does carbon fiber printing.
Yeah, well, okay. I've seen people test the carbon fiber printed stuff, and guess what? It's a fad.
Okay.
Because the printed fibers, they don't hold up like they're supposed to, not like they would in a regular carbon fiber construction. It's got carbon fibers in it. Yeah, but you're not doing it right. You're just squeezing it into the plastic. It's not really enhancing the tensile strength. It's crap. You're doing it wrong. There are a lot. I mean, I will say the Craft Cloud gives me like a choice of so many different materials. I could have printed these in brass for frick's sake. Or someone would have done these in brass if I wanted them to. Or clear resin. There are so many different options listed on there. These were the cheap price. It's ABS. So, I didn't need anything super fancy, but it gets crazy. Personally, for most people, unless you want to do it yourself as a matter of, this is a neat thing I want to mess with, for most people are just pretty much served with a printing service, honestly. If they can wait. If you can't wait, you need to have stuff immediately, then getting your own printer is, preferable, obviously. I think you're fine with the Ender 5 for right now.
Sounds like it. I looked it up. It seems like it's a pretty decent little printer.
Yeah. I think, what was it, Ender 3s that we had at the makerspace? Yeah, I think they have Ender 3s. They've got like 5 or 6 of them down there. And those were fine. It's just, the time it takes to print them. I will say they did it, and the stuff I needed printed, they did it in one go. And they did it unattended, which was great. So that's good. Yeah, let's see the Bamboo P1P. Let me look at that one. Let me look that one up. I'm not familiar with the brand, but learning things. Yeah, that's one of the multicolor ones. I mean, if you want to give that a shot, just understand that this is new. You will be on the bleeding edge of the multicolor stuff, although they do have them without the multicolor as well. So, it's prints faster, upgradable. It's not bad. And 600 is not, from what I've seen, 600 is not a terrible price for a 3D printer. So, it's all a matter of what you need it to do. And I understand speed is one of the biggest issues with 3D printing. God, it kind of reminds me of back. Do you remember when inkjet printing first started? The speed was the biggest issue with those. It'll print 500 pages an hour. What? Ah, crap. Yeah, it was like, it'll print 5 pages a minute. Oh, shit. That was, so I guess it's a bit of the same stuff now, really. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us for this week. Good set. We had a bunch of questions. I love that. Keep them coming. If you've got tech questions for me and Mike for next week, you can send them to request@radio.air.com, or You can put them in the comments of the YouTube when this goes up on there. The last week's is already up. I'll have this one up soon. So, we'll be back next Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you have tech questions, send them away. We are more than happy to help you with them. Until then, in the meanwhile, we'll see you next time. Good night, folks.